That would mess people up. All right. Yes. Kid in the back. Green. How old was I when I started drawing? I was actually like 4 or 5. I was born in Korea, and I remember my first art lesson was a woman that would work in oil pastels, and so with oil pastels you work from light to dark, and so we take like a yellow pastel crayon and then do the underdrawing or with blue, and then go with darker and darker colors, finally till you got to your purples and blacks. And so that's the first lesson, that I remember. I'm sure now it's a memory of a memory, and then I just drew all the time. So even when I was in high school, I would draw, or in grade school I would draw on pieces of paper, sort of absentmindedly doodling during class. And one time, I think it was like 3rd grade, I was drawing Nightwing, right, from the Defenders. This substitute teacher came over, and she would normally just take paper and throw it away, and she grabbed it out of my hands, and she was about to crumple it up, and she looked at it, and then she liked it, and then she hung it up on her wall, and it pissed me off because she didn't pay me anything for it. And so it's like, to this day I hate substitute teachers. And then later in high school I got in trouble for drawing, and so I just started, because I would still do the same thing and take my paper, and so I started drawing on the actual tabletops, and so school in St. Louis has hopefully a lot of drawings left on that, but all my notebooks and stuff just have drawings all along the margins and everything like that. So it's something that I always loved doing, and I think that really is the trick to, if you really want to get into comics, you have to love it so much that nothing's going to hold you back, because there will be a ton of things that will want to hold you back, from your parents or anything and everything will get in your way, and you have to sort of look beyond that. My parents, they sent me to a prep school for high school with the intent that I would go to this fancy college, and so I went to the fancy college, and they spent, at least $65,000 to put me through this college, and because they wanted me to become a doctor. My dad was a doctor, and they came to America actually just so that I would have the American dream, that I could have a different life than they had, and that I would go to college and sort of follow in his footsteps. He was the first one in his family to go to college. He was the first one to become a doctor, and that's what they really had hoped for me. And so I come to America. I go to a very nice prep school. I go to one of the top universities in the country, and then I graduate and say, you know what, I just want to draw superheroes. And you can imagine, like, they weren't too happy about it. And it was a struggle. And so it's not just people telling you not to. It's a tremendous amount of guilt that you might feel. People just saying, you know what, I don't think your work's that good, or this looks funny to me, and your own self-doubt, like, maybe I shouldn't do this, but maybe this is the easier route is to apply to medical school and do this other stuff. So you have to really want it, I guess. Yes, sir. The Joker.
Artists you look at and wonder why working more involved? Is there anybody you think we should be more aware of?
No, it's not so much aware of. I think there are a lot more artists that are talented than me, that are really awesome, that but what people want and what artists like, I would say, all your musicians, they're definitely the musicians that are the most commercial or most successful, but if you're into music, they probably tend to like bands or singers that are more esoteric, that are more avant-garde, or doing kind of edgier stuff that aren't so commercial. That said, there's a lot of like European artists that I really like that haven't really broken in big here because their style is so different from North American, comic book stuff. I like a lot of that. I like a lot of the indie kind of more cartoony stuff. I like a lot of the European style, where it's a lot like they use a lot more panels on a page to kind of tell a story. Trying to think what else. I'm less interested in the stuff that more resembles my style, or the style that was very popular in the 90s. I mean, I can look and go, wow, this is commercial and this would be great for this book, but personally they're not necessarily showing me something different that I can kind of learn from. So there's a lot of painted guys' work guys that are doing digital painting right now. It's really intriguing to me, and trying to really kind of pick up and learn things from. Yes. Megan.
I really was a huge fan of the Minx series. Is there any
Yeah.
way, like bringing it back, or anything similar, or anything in the pipeline with DC for that? Because I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, the Minx line was a black and white digest or manga-sized line that Vertigo did that was aimed at young adult readers, female young adult readers, and it didn't, for a number of reasons, just didn't catch on commercially. So they released just the volumes that they did, and then I think it's discontinued after that point. So it's tough, you know. The industry is, we have all these books that sell, and they're all the superhero stuff, and every time we kind of branch out from there, it's a real hit or miss, and usually more of a miss than a hit. And I think that Minx was a bold experiment and a valid experiment. It just didn't necessarily get the numbers to warrant continue doing it. That said, I think people are continually striving to figure out a way to tap into that young adult market, because it is huge. And but I think it's been on the wane recently. In past years, it really peaked several years ago with the manga stuff, and that category has really come down a bit too. So, you know, if we had done more vampire books, maybe it would have, you know, had more success. You know, everything should really be vampires. So, no, come on, I'm kidding. Jacob is sexy though. Yes, sir.
And also we earlier talked about game kids, and last weekend there was an anime on here in Boston. I noticed had like different demographics, and that was like what you're saying about like more females, more younger kids.
Yes.
Kind of just one, aside from things which really didn't work, like how do you actually do that?
Vampires. I was being semi-serious. Seriously, you know, vampires are so hot, and I know everyone associates it with Twilight, but there's others. I mean, True Blood is a great series, and there's Vampire Diaries for younger people and stuff like that. And I'm not saying just vampires. Like, it's more from the standpoint of there's always going to be something that's kind of trendy or hot, pirates, zombies, whatever. And I think we just have to get better at sort of predicting that kind of stuff. And you know, it's funny you were talking about, they had an anime show here or something like that? Yeah, so I actually go to those. My daughters were really, they're into that stuff. A couple of them are really into cosplaying, so they make their own costumes and all that stuff, and I take them to these shows, and like, everyone's all dressed up, and I go, oh, these guys are freaks. But that's probably how a normal person feels when they come to a comic book convention. And but it's a completely different crowd. No one recognizes me. I just kind of wander around. I'll even sit down in Artist Alley and just draw like free characters, sketches of people with gigantic eyes and triangular heads, and while they're doing their thing. And I love the exuberance and passion and you know, the zeal. I mean, these kids are so into that stuff, and so much of it is social rather than based on the content per se. They're not looking for back issues. They're getting together and checking out each other's costumes and posing and taking pictures and doing these sort of flash mob type events kind of thing. And that's different than stuff that you see at a comic book show. And it's been interesting at San Diego Comic-Con. There's actually more and more of the anime crowd coming in. And I think at New York Comic-Con this year, if you guys have a chance to go, I think they combined the anime show with the regular comic book Comic-Con in November, or October, sorry. And it should be interesting to see how those two things mix. It's last thing I'll say is that on the subject of vampires, at the San Diego Comic-Con, all these people are down on the fans that wait for the Twilight panels and how they clog up the hallways and they're there at 4 in the morning. And I don't understand. Like, I'm happy that they are there. I love people that are, you know, just blindly obsessive about crazy crap, and I think we need more of those people, and I welcome them, and you know what, maybe some of those people will graduate and develop and realize there's something more to life than that, and find other things, you know. So